Hello, everybody. It is another Wednesday. It is the month of April.
Amen.
And I got a very special guest today. Solstice,
Hello.
welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
Yes,
Excited.
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
How you been?
All is well. It's been a lot of big changes since the last time
Yeah.
we met. I went back to teaching in the classroom.
Nice,
I had a baby.
You had a baby.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 3 months.
Oh, boy or girl?
Obsidian, a boy.
Nice. Oh, the
Yeah.
city it is
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. The level of cuteness is off the
Oh my
scales.
gosh, I can't wait
Yeah,
to see pictures.
yeah.
You
I
got to show
got
me.
you. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like
Congratulations.
so cute. Thank you.
You're
Yeah, I
welcome.
appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you coming back.
Yeah.
It was something on my heart, and
Mm,
I'm like, he is a perfect person
mm.
to talk to about this. So I'm so glad that I get to talk to you about this because
Yeah.
last time we met, we talked about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about forgiving your Judas.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that can lead up to the Judas being how they is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And it's some real ugly characteristics and traits that some people possess or they unleash.
Mm-hmm.
They could be a good person,
Mm-hmm.
they could have a good heart,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes that thing that's in us that pulls you to be more like negative,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they embody that instead of getting away from it and turning it from a negative to a positive.
Right.
So that's why I want to talk about entitlement and
Mm-hmm.
anger.
Yeah.
What did you think when I said I want to talk about that? Like, what came to
You
mind?
know, I feel like they relate so much
They do.
because when you have a kind of distorted sense of entitlement, right, a lot of times it can lead to anger
Yeah.
because it's likely, you wanting something that you're not getting, that you think you're supposed to have, and that can create a lot of tension and a lot of negativity for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're really clinging to it, and so when you're not getting it, anyone can get it.
That's true.
And a lot of that darkness, does tend to just spill out. Like we all have the capacity to, have those traits of ugliness and mean or harsh and stuff like this. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us do, spend time making sure that we keep those in check, right? And that we do make sure that, um, we're not letting anything fester too long to the point where, we just get disgruntled
Or
and
project those feelings.
project. Yeah. Which is so common,
It
right?
is.
Projection, like,
And it's so ugly.
it is, it is. I've been, thinking about projection a lot, where I'm trying to understand it more, and the most positive way I've come to understand it is that, we are meant to expand, right? Even in our homes, in our cars, we try to make it reflect who we are.
Right.
And so then a ugly version of that is like projecting ourselves, right, everywhere we go, even onto other people, right? And sometimes we're projecting that darkness, right? Or anything in that realm of negativity. But it's something like you have to keep in check, because again, it's a part of that entitlement too, where you think that I'm this way, so you're supposed to be this way, right?
Yeah.
And so then when you realize that person ain't that way, then it creates anger.
Yep. It
Yeah.
creates anger.
Yeah.
And you be angry at them when you should be angry at yourself because you should have never been even doing that.
Right. And so it can be a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about entitlement from people who think that they're supposed to have what you have because who they are?
Yeah, even to a degree, I've experienced this myself, of just like, I didn't publish this book, you know, 2 years ago almost, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm supposed to be here, here, and here. I'm supposed to have this many sales, and yada yada yada. But it's really, this not accepting,
Mm.
who you are, where you're at, and not realizing that you're here for a reason, right? Like, you're in this space for a reason. You sold this many copies right now for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have no idea the blessing of this, what I may see as waiting, or something not happening, but like, there's always a blessing behind it, of just like,
Absolutely.
you if you were supposed to have it, you would have it,
Right.
right?
Or you're
And
going to have it, but you just have to practice the patience,
Mhm.
and still continue to believe
Yeah.
in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's still purposeful, it is meaningful, it is impactful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of time that everyone else can see the vision that you have for yourself.
Right.
Sometimes you have to paint that picture for them. They
Mm-hmm.
actually want to see you with the paintbrush
Mm-hmm.
and the canvas,
Mm-hmm.
and they want you to paint it out.
Yeah.
That's why all those caricature artists make so much money. They like paying you to make them look like how you perceive them in your mind, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a real life thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I really dislike the whole thing about entitlement, because we do it even when we don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
We think because we're family with someone
Mm-hmm.
that what they get we're supposed to have easy access to, or even our friends, we think that because they have this, we're supposed to also get a piece of that pie. And I understand that as someone who likes to give,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who likes to share, but also really, really appreciates reciprocation, it is very hard for me to want to expect something from someone that I wouldn't be willing to give them myself.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's also very difficult for me to understand when someone just assumes that what I worked hard for,
Mm-hmm.
they deserve it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they don't deserve something great.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm not obligated
Right.
to just open my wallet and be like, here
Mm-hmm.
you go ahead. I worked 200 hours. I worked all these hours. I put the time in.
Yeah.
Built these connections.
Yeah.
I did this. And yes, I'm very giving. I'm very lovable and kind.
Mm-hmm.
But I also do things as I see in my heart to give it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people need to understand that. Like, this I'm only bringing this up because this is a recent topic I've seen on social media.
Okay.
Or a recent video. So Marvin Sapp is in the church.
I just learned about this like this
I'm so glad you know.
I thought it was a joke at first.
I'm so glad you know, because when it came across my feed, I said, "Oh my Lord." I didn't understand what was happening, so I watched it. And he's like, close the doors. Mm-hmm. Ushers, get the doors. And I said, oh, my instant reaction was, is he holding them hostage? And then he said, no, all y'all gonna give some money today, basically. At least $20. We got a goal of $40K. Close the doors. I mean it. Close the doors.
Yikes.
And then he told the people on stage, and y'all gonna give $100 because we got a goal to achieve. And social media went crazy. Everybody, there was so many discussions about this. One of the arguments was, oh, this is common in the Black church, is they lock the doors and it's a safety thing. I ain't never heard that before. But I guess some people have. What do you think about this?
it's it's exactly what we're talking about, entitlement and anger. And you know, I think this is where a lot of people had that church hurt before, where the leader of the church may not have been so physical and forceful with it to like lock them in. But I remember, pastors being like, we not leaving, we not moving on with the service until we get this much money. So not only were they were sending the collection plate around, but they were like just waiting and counting it like right there, because they were like, until we get this much money, we're not moving on with service. And then would send the collection plate around again. And so it ain't nothing new, right? Like they may do it in different ways, but this guy just added a whole nother dimension, like lock the doors, right?
Spin on it.
Yeah, and so like it ain't entirely new, but it's just the extra bit of outrageousness. You see a lot more anger in this, right? This was a angry thing to do. It's an entitled thing to do. Yeah. And so yeah,
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, like what?
I'm like, it's something in him right now that's because you're supposed to give what your heart tells you to.
Exactly, a cheerful giver.
Yeah.
You're not a giver that's held hostage. Like
exactly. Or threatened.
Right? And this is your spiritual leader, right? Of all people. This is the safest space you would hope to be at, right? Yeah. And where you can be free, when you can be not judged. I mean, judgment happens in the church all the time.
It does.
Oddly enough, right? Yeah. But yeah, it ain't new, but him being famous and adding this spin to it is just like yikes.
It definitely was a yikes for me.
Yikes.
And the fact that people are like, no, that's normal. And I'm like, wow, y'all really don't realize y'all got this trauma from this situation and y'all just became okay with it. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. That's why I said it can be good people with good hearts, people with good intentions. Yeah. But then it's these moments where they're like, you know what? I want what I want and I'm going to get it from you. And I might even go to the extremes to get it. By any means, including embarrassing your entire congregation by setting this type of tone. But that's what I mean, even in outside of the church, even in our communities, people do this.
Yeah. And I imagine it's a lot of fear in that too, right? Where I don't know any of the details of this, but that kind of act tends to be driven by a fear. And I don't know if a church bill was due or one of his bills was due or something where they just absolutely had to have this money to go this far with it, right? But I know there had to be some level of fear, and that fear had to stir up some anger, and that anger justified the entitlement, and then it led to this unfortunate action.
Yeah. Because there were many other things they could have did. They could have had a fundraiser. They could have had a fundraiser, and they could have sold some dinners. They could have
any ticketed event.
They could have did anything.
A celebrity.
Yes.
Right. And so
it was basic. It was more than one way to achieve what he needed to achieve without doing it the way that he did it. And I know people are saying, well, it was only $20, but it was their $20. Right. It doesn't matter if it's $20. It's not about them not wanting to give. It's about you taking the freedom from them to give what their heart tells them to give. And that is where it all comes from. That's where it all stems from. And I feel that way in everything that I do, that my heart needs to tell me to give it. And I need to be actually able to afford it, whether that be financially, whether that be my time, whether that be something else that I have, no matter what it is on my terms when to give it.
That's what I always say this with, people that I talk to, my students and everyone, like your heart is your compass and your heart is going to direct you in everything. Like consult with your heart. Like it'll tell you, right? Even if like my funds aren't as high, right? And my heart is saying, hey, like, you give this, right? Don't worry, right? Because my heart may know a little bit more than my mind knows, and
Yeah.
and it's a bit more faithful, right? And so then I can give a 20, and then as soon as I leave service, right, someone hits my cash app like, here's my tithe and offering for the talk that we had, right?
Yeah.
Because they like to give to their wherever they get their spiritual feeding at, right? People like to give. And so, you know, it's quite it's it's quite the circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, recently, and this is, people will try to humiliate you
Mm,
publicly
mm,
and do things out of spite because you told them no.
mm-hmm,
That's another thing that is crazy to me.
mm-hmm,
You can tell somebody yes 20 times
mm-hmm,
because this one time you told them no,
mm-hmm,
they got to hear that no time over and over and over again. Believe it or not, someone asked me for something and I considered it and I thought about when I would do it. And I
Mhm.
told them maybe around this time.
mm-hmm,
But then the time came, I didn't hear from them, and I wasn't about to really chase them
mm-hmm,
because I never was actually really interested in doing it. I was only going to consider it because they asked.
mm-hmm,
When they didn't follow up on it around that period, I let it go.
mm-hmm,
Then I ran into them in public and they brought it up to me and said, "Hey, what happened to me doing this?"
mm-hmm,
And I said, "This is not the right place or time. We can talk about it another time." I was out having a good time with friends,
Mhm.
and then you approached me about this. It's
Yeah.
just not the right time. Um, so I said, "We'll talk about this later."
mm-hmm,
And then they never said anything else about it. And then recently they sent me an invitation to invite me somewhere.
mm-hmm.
And right when I was about to respond, they actually sent me another text message that insulting me,
Mm.
saying, "I don't even know why I asked you
Wow.
because you're not gonna do this, and you a funny acting person."
Yikes.
So I didn't respond.
Mhm.
I just deleted the message and decided, hell, you got your mind made up. I don't got a response for you
Mm-hmm,
because I did nothing to you. At this point, you just showing your ass,
mm-hmm,
and it's because you feel a way
Mhm.
about not getting something.
mm-hmm,
And I didn't owe you that. There was no thing that I actually owed you. I don't have to say yes. And now you're upset. So I let that go. I'm not responding because now you're insulting me. And I'm just someone, I'm not going to put more energy into it
mm-hmm,
because you really just did that to try and stifle me, to try and rile me up
mm-hmm,
and try to, mess with my head. That's how I
Mhm.
feel about it when
Mhm.
people do stuff like that. Because you could have just said, "Hey, I want to talk to you.
Mhm.
I felt like this when you did this."
Mhm.
But instead of being mature enough to say that, you decide to try to attack me
Mhm.
and try to attack me after inviting me to something. It
Mhm.
was weird.
Mhm.
It was very, what if somebody did something like that to you?
Yeah.
Is, "Hey, come over here and hang out." Oh, you know what? Never mind. I don't even know why I messaged you because you a funny person.
Mhm.
What is that about?
Mhm.
So I just thought that was weird. And I decided I'm not giving that energy back. Well, then on my social media, they decided to post a comment on one of my posts related to this thing as well,
Mhm.
and had an issue with me
Mhm.
on my page now. I said, "So now you're trying to humiliate me publicly because you're upset that I didn't give you something." Still not having a mature enough conversation with me.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I'm someone where if someone doesn't show interest, I'm
Mhm.
just going to stop asking them for it. It doesn't change the way I feel about you.
Mhm.
It doesn't make me feel a way. It just gets me to know, like, okay, then that wasn't meant to happen
Mhm.
between us, or that obviously they don't want to give me that. And it's okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to go find it over here.
Mhm.
But I've never been someone who feels like because you didn't give me something I asked for that you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
So, and it was just weird because this person's a family member.
Oh.
It was just super weird. And the other thing that was weird about it is we're not like super close.
Mhm.
We've hung out more over the last few years than we ever have.
Mhm.
And then just recently, you're asking me for things and I'm just not ready to give it to you yet. And I explained that, like, I'm not ready to give you that. When I'm ready, I will reach out to you. Is exactly what I said. And then they just kept coming behind me, asking. And I started to feel away because now why are you doing that? It's like finding out somebody's having a party, but they didn't invite you, and then you invite yourself. Or this is really how, if we compare the two, it's pretty close. Or it's like me going out to dinner and inviting a few friends, and you find out about it and you're like, well, why didn't you invite me? Why are you mad that I didn't invite you to the party? You should only feel like you belong in spaces where it's extended to you. Like, I just don't, it doesn't equate to me that you're owed my time or my space just because you want it. Maybe I didn't want you in that space at that time. And we have the right to determine that.
Right. And I mean, that was your reason, and not that you needed one, but there are times where you could be protecting someone, right? Or knowing that, like, this ain't their vibe, right? Or these people really aren't their people, right? And can make a decision, right? And again, it's your dinner, it's your party, right? That, like, oh, I don't, this isn't the right event, but of course we're going to have other times where we get together. I realized that my greatest teacher right now is my 4-year-old toddler, and I realized that, like, oh, everybody is like this, right? They're just a bit more refined, right? And so, when he hears the word no, full on tantrum, right? and so I learned to, like, oh, just don't say no. You can give a no, right? That just not using that word, and it's a completely different response, right? If he wants to jump on the couch, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, how about we do this, this, and this, and no tantrum, right? And so I'm realizing that, a lot of adults are the same way, where we hear that no, and then something happens in our minds where we just start to crash out. And it's just like, I don't know if it comes with this sense of not feeling worthy, right? And then when you don't feel worthy, right, then you try to make yourself feel worthy, and then that can become ugly, right? If you, depending on where your mind is at. And so it's just like, my mentor, one of my mentors way back in the day, was just always telling me, go where you're celebrated, don't go where you're merely tolerated, right? And so
I believe that.
Right. And of course there'll be times where you're in spaces where you're growing and you're getting to know it, and people may not know you, right? But to go into a place where it's like either your invitation was not extended, right? Or your welcome was not extended, or it's just not for you. I think when people try to force it, that comes, of course, with this sense of entitlement.
Right.
But one of the things that I've taken for myself too is that a no to something is a yes to something else, right? So you may have said no, to this. You asked me, I asked you can I go with you? And you say no. Okay. That no just means there's a yes waiting for me somewhere else.
Right.
And so instead of getting worked up about about you saying no, I go and figure out what the yes is, right?
I know that's right.
Right. And then more than likely, I'm going to have the time of my life, because this is where I'm aligned at, right? I'm not forcing the negative. I'm not moving in resistance. So now that you said no, if I'm trying to convince you, like, now I'm just resisting, and resistance is a form of hell within itself.
Ooh,
right? And so
said a word.
Yeah. And so just go with a yes, where there's a no, it's a yes to something else. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Wherever there's a no, there's a yes to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I also think, like in this particular case, I had to block this person.
Mm-hmm.
blocked them on all my social media. They still got my phone number though.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to resolve this like an adult, let's resolve it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not about to be on my social media acting a fool.
Yeah.
That
Yes,
we're not gonna do
that's
that.
different. I mean, because for a lot of people with social media, this is where their image is, this is where their reputation is, this is where their clients are.
Yeah.
And so to bring that kind of energy, there to this, for a lot of people, it's social media, but it's a professional world. Right. It's like, imagine someone coming into your workplace and then like cussing you out and stuff.
Right.
It's
and
just
like screaming at the top of their lungs.
Yeah,
and saying
stuff. It's like no, like
Yeah.
and so I had that experience once, and I just quickly deleted the comment, blocked them, and moved on about the day. Because it's just like, whoa, this is not the place, right? It felt like and
the thing is, I haven't even talked to this person in a while, and it's not because I don't want to talk to them. It's just I've been busy, and they're not someone that I've never been close to this person. Like, we don't have even a close relationship. I still love them, and I've like I said, I've seen them more over the last few years than I've ever in my entire life. And so I've spent a lot of time with you more recently, but every time I spend time with this person, they find something to be upset with me about. And so it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, one time it was, how come every time I get around you, you take pictures, but you don't take them with me? And I'm like, why didn't you just ask for a picture? Like, this is my mentality, because I'm taking a picture when I feel like taking a picture. It's not that I'm avoiding taking a picture with you. It's just I take a picture when I want to take a picture. And maybe this person asked me for a picture where you didn't, and you didn't hear that part. You just assumed that I'm not taking pictures with you. So that's happened before. Whereas I have friends that I'm just super tight with, and every time we link up, picture, pose, that's just us, because that's us. You know what I'm saying? I can have that with someone over here, and I might not have that with you. We might have to work our way up to that. Or you might need to be more vocal that that's what you want from me. And so, like you said, that sense of entitlement, that thought of, oh, how come you giving them that piece and you're not giving me a piece of that? And it's like, speak your mind, but do it respectfully.
Well, that a weird thing with entitlement a lot of times too is that when people feel entitled to something, oftentimes they didn't even ask.
Exactly.
They just expect and assume that it is supposed to come and be there. But it's just like, it started with the word. Like, use your words and ask. And it may be a no, but like, to have this sense of entitlement and really want something without putting it out there, it's a little wild, right? But I also understand that people have a hard time asking, right? Or been taught or socialized not to ask, and would just really want people to, I think about Leos, right? Leos love being invited to things, right? They'll invite themselves, to things, but a lot of times they really appreciate like having an invitation. And so, for them, that's a really big deal. And when they don't get that invitation, they may feel a kind of way. But I've just really been learning. We talk about affirmations and calling things in all the time, and like that applies to everything. Like
everything.
If you want something, right, say it. Write it. But make it known. If it's unknown, then how is it supposed to come to being?
Right. Absolutely. And my thing is too, like, and even if you finally do get the courage or you decide to ask for something, when someone tells you no, take the no, man. Stop asking.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying stop asking in general. I mean, stop asking them and start going asking somebody else. Because now I feel like you trying to push past my boundaries now. Now you're making me uncomfortable because now I feel like you're trying to force me to give you something, or you're trying to, bully me.
Yeah.
That's what it started to feel like. You trying to
Ouch.
bully me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I had to tell you no in more than one type of way. I never actually flat out said no. I said, well, you know what? That's not really what this is about. So that's why I don't want to do it, because it doesn't apply. It really, and I'm not saying that it's not something valuable. It might be valuable to you, but it does not add value to what I'm doing over here. So I can't see it for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to be involved in that. That's like someone asking you to collaborate on a project, or asking you to be in a movie, and you read the script and you like, this ain't for me. And the director like, no, but I wrote this just for you. And you like, but this ain't me. But the director's like, no, this was written for you. I'm telling you. And trying to convince you that the script is yours and that you need to play the part. And you keep telling them, nah. That's what this feels like. Like, that's what it feels like when people get entitled.
Yeah. I've learned too that, one of the laws of the universe is that, give and take always balances itself out.
Yeah.
And so, I recall a lot of times where people are in relationships and they are, constantly, giving and giving and don't feel like they are receiving, reciprocity and things like this.
Yeah.
Even outside of relationships. And one of the things I realize is that you may not be getting something directly from where you want it to come from, but God, the universe, is going to redirect that. So if you're giving and giving, right, whatever it is, like love, right, then you may not be necessarily getting it back from where you're putting it at. Hopefully you are, but you are going to receive that love back, some from somewhere, right? Again, it's that, if it's a no here, it's a yes somewhere else. And just being open to receiving from different channels and from different directions, and not assuming that if I put in here, this is where I'm going to get it back from here, right?
Right.
You're going to get it back because that's the universe, right? You're going to be watered back, but sometimes, right, it's not exactly where you're watering, right? But it becomes more important when you are in a relationship with someone that watering is maybe it's not balanced, but there's a harmony to it, right? And so I think a lot of times when people put efforts in, in a specific person or thing or event or organization, right, they're wanting to see the results directly from that, when in fact it can come from many sources, right? All the time we see, self-development and coaches talking about, make a plan, but just know that, whatever that goal is probably not going to come about the way you planned it out, right? You can do this and this, and you're going to achieve the goal, but God works in mysterious ways, and so it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen, more than likely, right? It's not going to happen the way you thought it was going to happen,
right?
And this can be scaled down to just individual relationships, right? You may not be getting these pictures with this friend all the time, but you got another homie right here who's just like click heavy, like, hey, let's take this picture.
Always want to take pictures,
right? And so just really being in harmony, right? I think a lot of times we are also just so focused on a balance, kind of relationship, or a balanced reciprocity, but I think it's more about finding that harmony within, right? And balance is just a straight line. A balance, it's cute, but it's a straight line. It's a flat line. But a harmony, you're gonna get a lot more richness out of that.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great way to put it. Like, and I think that's what people need to think about, is, like we always say, when one door closes, it doesn't mean another one isn't open somewhere else. But also just having a a mindset of when you go into asking for something or wanting something, understanding that there are two parts, that there is two possibilities when you ask. You can't just go in there thinking like, I'm going to ask, they're going to say yeah.
Yeah.
Before I ask for anything, I always tell myself first so I stay level headed and so that I process it the way I need to process it. I always say, this is what I love to say is all they can say is no. The worst thing they can say is no, and it wouldn't even be the worst thing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to give me this, but how will I know until I ask? And so I still ask. And I understand that today's no doesn't mean that it's never going to be.
Yeah.
It just means that it's not going to be with them, and that's okay. So I feel like when the thing that sucks the most is you can tell somebody as delicately as possible, and you can work with someone and try to teach them how you achieve something so they can do it on their own, but they don't want to do that. They want you to hold their hand or do it for them. And so it's kind of hard to be around that type of vibe or that type of energy in a person, because then at that point they don't understand capacity. They don't understand many things, emotional intelligence. Like there's a lot of things that they don't understand, and it takes a lot of time to try and teach an adult these things. When I feel like we should be responsible enough for our own feelings, our own wants and desires, and go venture out and get them by whatever that means for me, whether that be me picking up a book, watching a YouTube video, or even just saying, okay, since you can't do it with me, who do you recommend I do it with?
Yeah.
Just taking that initiative to find another solution to what you need instead of relying on that person to give you the solution. And it is, and I also did a show the other day and I was talking about how networking is important. I was on Shavonda's show. Shout out to Shavonda. Her podcast is Love and Strength and Love. And we talked about networking. And we were talking about even in networking spaces, you might approach someone there and you're there to learn, but you might think you're coming and that you can ask for certain information. They might not be able to give it to you. So you sat through this whole thing and you had this question and no one there could answer it. But taking the initiative of saying, can you answer this question for me? And if they say, I don't know the answer, what are you going to do? Just shut down and never find out? No, you're going to say, well, do you know someone who can help me? Or what resources may you suggest? You're going to do the work, right? And so I feel like sometimes things get confused because there's entitlement, right? There's narcissism. Some people just feel like they can manipulate and gaslight their way through life, and so there's all these things. And so you're trying to have that discernment there to determine who you can give parts of yourself to, what parts and what boundaries need to be set up for certain people that exist. Right. And so I don't think people think of that. They just, oh, I know you. So since I know you, I can ask you for anything. I had to tell somebody to please say hello to me when they message me. They just hit me with the, so I need this. Hello, how was my day? And they was kind of offended. And I said, why are you offended? I'm just telling you how to treat me, because if I don't teach you how to treat me, you'll treat me how you think you should. And that did not go well, the conversation. So it's just, you can't win sometimes with people. Sometimes it's just like, what? I'm trying to tell you what I will and will not allow. And you're mad because I won't allow it.
Yeah, it's wild because, even going back to someone asking something and it can be a yes or a no. And they can get mad if it's a no, but they went into that question knowing that it's two possible answers.
Exactly.
Right. And so, yeah, no can be not the one you were looking for, but you knew that that possibility exists, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's wild to kind of get mad when you ask something that had two possible answers, and then it's just that is that resistance and that
Right.
and that entitlement. But I think if we can really understand the power in ourselves and like just the overall loving power that there is that everything is in divine order. So like no matter how many no's that I get, right, like I know that no is the best thing that can happen, right? Because that no probably led me over here, and then over here not only did they say yes, but then they was just like, and I'm gonna throw in this and this,
Yeah.
right? But if I would have went with tried to overcome that no, right, and then just settle for that minimum, is just like and so
Yeah.
really realizing that even when someone says no, like you are protected, right? Something better is there, right?
Yeah.
That, or something that specifically for you is there, and in that moment that no was for you.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of positive posts about like no and so-called failure, and one of the best ones I've seen was this. They asked the question, if you knew that after 10 no's, right, the 11 one would be a yes, right, how quickly would you want to hear no from someone,
Yeah.
right? And it just
That's
really,
interesting.
right, it just really reframed my mind. I'm just like, I would want no after no after no,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and so just realizing that you're gonna get everything that you put your heart into, and
Yeah.
that really, that's really for you, right?
Yeah.
Like
Everything
nothing,
isn't for you, and everybody isn't for you.
right, nothing this for you can miss you, and nothing real can be threatened. And so
Yeah.
if you're supposed to have it, no one can take it away from you, right? If you're supposed to be there, no one can kick you out, no one can close the door on you. Like,
And I like that nothing real can be threatened.
yeah, nothing real can be threatened.
What? Real relationships,
Exactly.
real goals.
Exactly.
Like that can't be threatened
Hmm.
if it's real,
Exactly.
if it's genuine,
Hmm.
if it's mine,
Hmm.
if it's divine.
Amen.
Come on now.
Yeah, truly.
This is it. See, this I need to get this out. I need to talk about this because I see it a lot. And I even have fallen to this in the past with the whole entitlement thing, thinking, oh, you my friend, you supposed to give me that.
Hmm.
You're my family. I'm supposed to do this
Hmm.
with you.
Hmm.
No, people are people,
Hmm.
and they have limits,
Hmm.
and they have the right to choose when and whom.
Hmm. Truly.
When and whom. I remember someone asking, um, it was something along the lines of, um, if someone wants something, or if someone you have certain boundaries with, do you uphold those same boundaries consistently with everyone? No. I might have a whole nother set of boundaries for you
Of course.
than what I have for this person.
Of
Like,
course.
and it just blew me because
That's like every relationship.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, no, you cannot borrow my socks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I might let somebody else, like
Yeah.
a sister, or borrow those. Or no, you cannot just come in my house and open my fridge and
Mhm.
pick what you want out the fridge.
Mhm.
But my mom might be able to do that. But you gotta ask.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's just certain lines you have to and I understand maybe people might not know out the gate because maybe they used to go into people's house just opening their fridge and drinking juice out the carton.
No.
And I'm like, whoa,
No.
that is not okay. It's like, no, you can't do that over here. It's just
No. No, If it's not your home, do that nowhere.
This is not your home.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, no, you cannot just go lay in someone's bed with your outside
The
clothes
street
on.
clothes, nah.
Yeah. Like, it's like
You,
you know what
you've
I'm
been
saying?
on a bus, you've been on the stoop, you've been everywhere.
Have you ever had somebody trying to spend a night at your house and you had to act like you had to go somewhere for them to leave?
Nah.
But these are some of the things I've heard.
Yeah.
Like, people think that because they have some type of relationship with you, they assume what that is. And so in order for them to know what those boundaries are, you have to tell them or you have to show them. You know, so this is just yeah. Just it's even like with kids will think that they supposed to have the you like, come on now. Did you work for this? No, you did not. So if I tell you you can't have it, you can't have it.
Yeah.
Well, why not, Mom?
Those concepts are alien to children. You know, kids, they don't know how much a dollar costs.
They don't get the value of it.
Yeah.
And so even with kids, like, they get entitled with their parents. They like, oh, this is my mama stuff. I was like that when I was a kid. Oh, so I know my mom would have some jewelry or some kind of like skincare product or some lotion or some perfume I wanted to wear. Oh, now mama like, dang, this perfume bottle done went down.
You didn't even know it was a $400 bottle.
Yeah, like then she got weird, like she'll borrow us a sweater or something, and then she'd be like, what happened to my sweater? You know, like when we were my sister, she did the same thing. My mom like, y'all just take it from me. Y'all just take it, whatever y'all want, ain't y'all? So then we grew up and our kids doing it to us.
Amen. Circle of life.
Yes, I was like, dang, that's what Mama was talking about. You know, taking your shoes, wearing them when they want to wear them, and just, you know, doing stuff. But it's something that needs to be taught.
Yeah. I want to spend some time on anger too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, lately I've been seeing people, a lot of folks like really justifying anger and, you know, coming with this idea of righteous anger. And I was even seeing like on Instagram and other places, anger experts.
Oh, I've never heard of this. Teach me.
Me either. No, I ain't gonna teach you this one because I don't believe it. You know.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, you know, I think even like, you know, biblically, where the only time, you know, they'll people will mention like the time Jesus flipped over the tables and was, you know, angry at the people who were, you know, overcharging on currencies and all this other stuff, right? But you know, everywhere else is just like, hey, be slow to anger, right? If you are angry, then you know, I forget the exact phrase, but like, you know, don't murder. But like, if you're angry, you've already been there, right? And like even putting anger on par, you know, with murder. And it's just like, it's a dark spirit, and not that, you know, dark spirits, you know, are, or, you know, we don't have to use our strength, right, in that regard. But
yeah,
it never really gets us anywhere but further or deeper in, you know, whatever mess we were in, right, where we think that we're justified in our anger, or it's okay to be angry because this happened. And yeah, some things that don't feel good happen, but that anger, you know, or that feeling can be, you know, channeled into other things where you're not raising your blood pressure, right? Where you're not then letting that anger out in a way where now you've hurt someone and now they're angry and now they hurt you back. And now it's this cycle of, oh, well, you know, you hurt me, so I hurt you, or I did this out of anger, right? How many times have you seen something beautiful happen and someone said, "Oh, I did that out of anger," right? Like that's
Mm,
not
that's right.
right. That's not a
It's
thing.
not a thing.
It's not a thing at all. But then in the midst of it, right, or even if someone's hearing a story about it, right, they can, they justify the anger, but knowing that it leads nowhere to like further down, right? It's a low vibrational energy, right? No one likes to be around someone who's angry, right?
Right.
You don't want to be around yourself when you're angry, right? You fall into all kinds of negative thoughts when you're angry, right? And it it just serves to stay below, right? It's a form of hell, right?
Yeah.
Where you are, just kind of rotting in this fire, like you're just choosing to stay in this fire and just burning yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like no one's just out here happy and angry. No one's out here peaceful and angry. No one's out here just abundant and angry. Like these things don't go together.
That's
And
right.
so um I think, even politically, a lot of times people are look at politics and they get angry at politics, or they are, protesting, and they're in this angry protest, and it's just like there's a
And
different
there's some ugly
way.
things that come from that for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Now you doing stupid stuff like egging people's houses and
yeah,
burning things. And
yeah,
remember when they stormed? Where was the? Remember when they went to Washington
yeah.
D.C. with
Storm the
all the
Capitol.
guns?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like just doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like, in our personal lives, in our work lives, in our professional and our spiritual, like there's never a time where you're just like, oh, thank God that I use anger
Right,
to work that problem out, to
right.
talk to this person, to do this. Like it's very rare that you just be like, oh yeah, I was angry, and because I was angry, I was able to overcome this or that or whatever the
Nobody
case.
ever says that.
No one ever says that, right? But
You push
then
people away, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just this thing, right? And things like entitlement, they come latched on with anger,
That's
right?
true.
Because these are both of these feelings, they are in the lower realm. So yeah, I know there are a lot of people out there who have this idea of righteous anger, and I just want to say, like, nah.
Like it's not okay.
Nah, just find your peace, right? Don't let nobody disturb your peace by any means, right? And so whether it's political, whether it's professional, whether it's interpersonal, whether it's marital, right? Like anger is not about to save your marriage,
Yeah.
right? like it's not a place for that. you know Anger is not about to teach your children any positive lesson, right?
Right.
Anger is going to make them fear you, right? And then you may get your desired result by them fearing you and like not being their full selves, even if that means they're jumping and throwing things, right? But there's other ways to attend to that. We can get more creative in how we problem solve. We can get
Hmm.
more creative in how we talk to people that hurt us, right?
Right.
And I think we can start simply by knowing, like I said earlier, everything is in divine order, right? that
Hmm.
that no means there's a yes somewhere else, right? Like all of it, everything that's happening is an opportunity for us to get deeper into our hearts, right? Or to experience the divine. But sometimes we'll use anger to block us from growing and get stunted
Right.
that way. But there's I just I can't think of any situations where it's just like, oh, if that person wouldn't have got angry, you know this beautiful thing wouldn't have happened. Like that's
Yeah.
just not a it's just not a thing. But people continue holding on to anger, right? Especially even when the situation is like over, right? You can sit here and be thinking about it and get yourself angry, right?
You
And
get
like,
super mad.
yeah, like you in the middle of dinner enjoying yourself, and then, and then suddenly you think of this and you just get angry, and it's just like what, like you're like diffuse it, right? It's
Yeah.
for you, right? I know, anger can bring out a certain sense of fearlessness sometimes too, but it always costs you, right? And so like it costs you joy, it costs you happiness, right?
It
And
costs you
it
relationships.
costs you relationships. It's very costly,
Yeah.
right? It may cost someone their congregation, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like
Or even keep newcomers from coming to
exactly, right? Who's attracted to anger?
nobody.
No one's attracted to anger, and yet everyone, even a lot of people right now watching, will probably still find some kind of justification for why they are angry, why they get angry, why they use anger, right?
Yeah.
But they won't be able to point out a time where, oh, anger saved my marriage, anger saved my life, anger,
Right.
it doesn't,
Right.
and so I hope people start to like rethink, like, nah, anger and peace don't go together.
They
Anger and love don't go
don't.
together, right? And we all here, we want peace. I
Yeah.
think all of us just want peace, like within our hearts, within our minds, within ourselves, within our relationships. And anger is the enemy of peace, and always
Yes.
will be.
And you know what? People never know what you're going through.
Yes.
And here you come trying to disturb my peace.
Hmm.
Like, I'm over here just trying to have peace. I'm
Hmm.
over here trying to balance everything I've got going on.
Hmm.
And then here you come projecting onto me because you don't like something.
Hmm.
That is why I'm seeing more people isolate themselves.
Yeah,
I'm
for
seeing
sure.
more people be less sociable. There's
Hmm.
a lot more social anxiety. People
Hmm.
aren't comfortable in spaces,
Hmm.
and it all stems from that.
Hmm.
It's it alters sometimes people's overall way of humanity.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I feel like then there's this battle, there's this war between people that doesn't need to be there. Like there has been people I have walked past and said hi,
Hmm.
and they just looked at me like I just like
Cuss
you know
them
what I'm
out.
saying? Like I
Yeah,
did something to
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah,
Like dang, I couldn't
yeah,
say hi to you, and they don't say hi back. They
yeah,
just look at you.
yeah,
Um, how dare you say hi to me? I'm just
yeah.
walking to the bathroom. I
Hmm.
don't want to say hi.
Yeah.
Like people won't make eye contact or
And it's wild too, because we know that, because we know that we ourselves are on a journey somewhere, or going through something, right? Life can be very good, happy, joyful, all that,
yeah.
but there's still something you're working on, right? That's the whole earth is a school, right? We're learning to get through something, to process something, to understand something, to heal all our darkness, all all our demons, right? And
Hmm.
so every person, right, who hasn't reached enlightenment or Christhood or nirvana or whatever, right, there's something they're going through, right? it's the
Right.
it's the human experience. And so knowing that, it's wild that we don't consider that with every person we come across, and then that alone being enough to like draw in some compassion and
Yeah.
just be like, you don't even need to know what they're going through.
Right.
You just know, because you're having a human experience. There's something, right? And so come in gentle, come in
Yeah.
loving, right? Come in, being inspirational. Like a hello goes a long way. I love when people say hi to me on the streets. I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, we all on this earth just living, huh?
Yeah.
It's such a small thing, and yet it can be, it can just make someone's day. You just saying hi to them.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, well, yeah, I believe the world is a beautiful place, right? It's just when we look through the eyes of separation, when I don't understand that, you and I, are one, and it automatically evokes some kind of me versus you. I gotta get it, or they gonna get it, right? It's either me or her, or whatever the case. But when you realize we're all here at school, just trying to
Yeah.
trying to learn ourselves, to know ourselves, then it's just like, have some grace,
Yeah.
have grace for everyone you come across, because they may have a glamorous life, but they still are going through something.
Yeah.
And the glamour may be what's shown the most, which you see the most of, but they could, that one thing that they're going through could be like the majority of the things that they're thinking about on a day-to-day, no matter how much they're smiling, no matter how much money they're getting paid, no matter how many gigs they have, how many people know them, right? Like that one thing could be just tearing them up inside,
Yeah.
right? And we know this. We see a lot of people who are wealthy and famous and stuff. Turns out they were going through something, right? So much so that they decided to skip to the next incarnation,
Right.
and so it's just like, regardless, like they just come in and treat everyone just
Mhm.
with love,
Mhm.
it don't matter. I don't care who they, I'll go extreme. I know it's hard for people to hear, but it doesn't matter, whether it's a gang member, a murderer, whether it's a Trump or a Biden or Elon or Mother Teresa. Like it don't matter. Like every single person, deserves that love. It just doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what they did. Like everyone should be held to the same standard of love.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, people are not gonna like that.
Nah. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Um it's okay.
Hmm.
But that's what it
But
is,
then, yeah, because expect to be? How can you expect to be forgiven for your mistakes
Exactly.
if
That's
you,
exactly why.
yeah, if you
You know?
can't even forgive others
Exactly.
and let God do the judging? Let God, it's,
Yeah.
vengeance is His, right?
Yeah. Um there's a movie called The Shack.
Mm,
I think it's on Netflix right now,
okay.
that really just paints the most beautiful picture of this. And so, I don't know, this ain't not like a promotion or anything like this, but it's I think that the film can be a very beautiful part of people's spiritual journey, and their
Oh,
journey into themselves and knowing themselves and being able to forgive, even forgive your Judas, right? And so, highly recommend like this film. It's fairly long, but
you said it's
it's
on Netflix?
I think it's on Netflix right now.
Okay.
It's called the Shack. I forget the what's her name. She played Ma. You seen Ma? What's her name?
Mm-mm. I can look it up.
Octavia Butler. No, that's a writer. What's her name?
I
Ah,
don't know.
anyways, The Shack. Watch it.
Okay.
You're gonna cry. Like, and that's okay too, of course. Like, you're gonna cry, and you're gonna learn some lessons, and you're gonna be making a lot of phone calls, forgiving a lot of people, and forgiving yourself. And yeah, and that's again, that's what we're here for. We're here to learn,
We
and
are.
part of learning is knowing to when to let go and forgive and surrender, to whatever the situation is. The if there's someone, if there's anyone in the world that you haven't forgiven, then it's a direct indicator that there's something in yourself that you haven't forgiven, right?
Yeah.
And so, drop the anger, and rise in love.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Mm.
I think people lose sight of what love is.
Yeah. It can be easy to, you know?
And that's why you got so much chaos, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and people get consumed with what they deserve or what they feel they deserve.
Yeah. Consumed. I
Yeah.
like that you use that word, because it can drive you crazy if like you really thinking that you're supposed to have this is supposed to be yours and it's not yours. It can just create so much chaos in you. And then, you know and just ruin a lot of things for you. And the wild part is a lot of times we always get what we pray for, right? Unless it's something that will damage our spiritual well-being or what have you. But a lot of times it's wild that, people ask for things and they receive it and still don't even recognize
That they got
that
it.
they got it, and they still walking around. I have this a beautiful example where, I had a friend um who um always wanted to move to New York City.
Hmm.
And I had another friend who lived in New York City, and these were different worlds of friends. And the friend in New York, they knew that I myself wanted to move to New York for some time, so they sent me this housing. This old lady was just taking a vacation, and she had like a 3-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn,
Mm.
and she was like renting it for like a couple $100, right?
What?
A couple $100. And my friend sent this to me, and I wasn't in the space to take that offer, but I'm like, oh, another one of my friends
Good.
been wanting to, and so I sent it to them. And one of their wishes was that they want to live in New York, and they want to be in an apartment that had a view of the Statue of Liberty.
Wow.
And so so I forward this listing to my friend, and she takes it, she accepts it, and then she goes there, and she's just like, the only thing is like, I ain't got that view though. And I'm just like, you got this apartment though. And then so we're having breakfast in the kitchen. There's a window and there's a fire escape, and we're like, kind of dangling out the window onto the fire escape. And I'm like, oh, it's so nice out here. I just want to like go out there, but it's not the safest, because it's like no balcony, it's just a fire escape.
Oh.
And so I go out there, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna chill out here for a second. And then I stand up, and I take maybe 1 or 2 steps to my right, and there was the Statue of Liberty. And she
Wow.
never even seen it
That
before
is
that. It's
wow.
wild, right? And
Yeah.
and it was just like, sometimes you get what you prayed for, and all you have to do is just look up, right?
Mm.
The view was right there. Just go out the window, stand up, and it was right there. And I'm just
That is
like, I
awesome.
know, right? I'm just like, you're always gonna get what you prayed for, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it just takes, some looking in a different way, or taking a different position.
Yeah.
And you'll see that it's right in front of your face.
I love that
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah, truly.
So now she go out there all the time, huh?
It was only like a 3-month stay, but
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, it blew her mind,
Yeah.
right? And, like, it was everything she wanted. It
Wow,
was
that was
everything she wanted.
everything. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
And that's true in a lot of situations. Like you said, people just gotta look at it from a different angle.
yeah, absolutely,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
I can get
Yeah,
with that.
everything that's happening right now is everything you already prayed for and wanted.
Yeah.
And some stuff that you already prayed for, and you've been looking for, it's here. You just turn your head, just stand up,
Yeah.
right? Just take a different angle. It's right there.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, it's already there.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love that. Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for this.
Amen.
Because
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. You want to tell everybody about your book?
Yes, of course.
Yes,
Black
please.
Black Gita. This is a book of poetic meditations for, becoming one within yourself, mind, body, spirit, and becoming one with another, and becoming one with everything that is. It's this journey of oneness. It's beautiful. The title Black Gita, all the colors combined make the color black, and Gita means song of God. And so it translates to the song of God is union, or the song of God is unity.
It's
And
beautiful.
it's available Amazon, Barnes and Noble website, Walmart website. Uh, Definitely get a copy. It's we're working on the album right now. There's one piece already on Spotify and Apple Music called Virgil's Meditation.
Beautiful. Okay.
So definitely find yourself with it. And it's not even about sales. Like, this is a book where everything that's written in here was divinely inspired. There was not one time where I sat down, I'm just like, I'm finna write for a little bit and whatever. Like, every time it was just like something hit me, and it was just like, get to a piece of paper, get to a computer or whatever,
Yeah.
and start writing. And that's what happened. And so every piece in here was just divinely inspired. And I believe
Wow.
it can really help along the spiritual journey.
Yes. And people can use help with the spiritual journey
Yeah.
because a lot of people are struggling with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it's about the delivery,
Mm-hmm.
and how, like you said, how people can align and how it can resonate for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, y'all get y'all a copy. I think he should do a book tour.
Yeah, book tour on the
I
way.
think he should do a podcast tour.
Podcast on the way.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think next time we'll have you read something out of it
Okay.
because people need to be inspired
Mm-hmm.
so that they can make that spiritual connection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's y'all be looking out. Don't play with them now.
Amen. Thanks for having me. It's
Absolutely.
been a pleasure as
Anytime.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You are a joy. You are a light.
Mm,
And I enjoy your company.
thank you.
So,
Likewise.
yeah.
Amen.
And you know what? And I gotta say, every time you come around, you kind of give me a sense of calm.
Oh yeah.
Cause like, I think another piece of this is emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Emotions drive us,
Yeah.
right? Even entitlement, that's an emotion too, right?
Mhm.
And it's not a positive one, right?
Mm-mm.
If you know that the kingdom is at hand, and like you're divinely blessed and abundant, that's one thing, right? But if you have an entitlement, it's like the dark form of that, the negative side of that.
Yeah, it's like the
Right.
opposite.
Yeah. It's a drag,
Yeah.
right, for you and the people around you. But yeah, emotions are strong. I've done some social emotional consulting. Also, I do spiritual counseling too. So if anyone does want to talk or have one-on-ones or some meditation sessions or some prayers, feel free to contact me as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is why we here, right? Like this whole conversation was for people to be uplifted out of anger, uplifted out of entitlement, and
Yes.
realize that the world, this world is a gift to you, right? And so, like, there's no need to be entitled. Like, this world is your gift, and so go play,
Yeah.
right? Go create, go love, go dance, skip, sing, play. Like, just enjoy it. Like, there's no need for anger, there's no need for entitlement, there's no need for any of these things. And yeah, a lot of stuff is on part of the human experience, but I think we just veer too much on the negative when it's wild because negative, like, even like negative in the sense of can't or don't or no, like even our subconscious don't even understand. If I say don't think about an elephant, the first thing this you're gonna think about is an elephant. You're gonna see an elephant. Our consciousness doesn't even understand the negative.
Yeah.
Right? We're not even built that way.
Yeah.
We're created in love and joy, and along the way we just it fades. But we gotta get to it. It's in us. It's in all of us.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of doing that work, I suppose.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because the first thing you want to be like is, oh, I'll show you.
Seriously,
You know, and you
there's
gotta shut
something.
that off.
Yeah,
You gotta react in love. Because
truly.
the moment you react in how dare you
Mhm.
and you get that,
Yeah,
and
it's
what is
satisfying,
that?
and in the moment it feels like it'll be satisfying,
Yeah.
right? But it never really
No, you just
is.
keep going and then it
Right,
just
you add on karma for yourself, and now
yeah.
you gotta move through that, and now more than likely someone's going to mirror that to you later on in
Yeah.
some way, so you can learn your lesson. That's what I've learned even through Black Gita. God isn't going to let us move with anything unhealed. He's not going to let us just have things that are unhealed. And so if I'm having some kind of issue, right, that I don't resolve, that's going to it's going to keep coming back to me. It may not be this relationship, but the next relationship, I got trust issues. The next relationship, I still didn't fix my trust. Like, he loves and cares too much for us, of us, to let anything go unhealed.
Yeah.
And so you might as well, it may be satisfying to be like, oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Let's
And that's a lot. That's
crashing out, that's a big thing, and it's just like, your ego may have some kind of satisfaction with that in the moment, but your spirit doesn't like
no,
that. Like,
not
there's
at
no
all.
way that you're crashing out or whatever the case and your spirit is like jumping for joy. No, your ego, right, your devil is jumping for joy. But
Right. Now you hurting people that you so called love. Now you are just trying to spread it like a virus.
and it spreads quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. Anger is a wildfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this I've seen it happen more than one occasion with different people from the same person too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like now it's this toxicity that you have to tame it. You have to tame it within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask yourself, how come I keep burning bridges with people?
Yeah.
How come these relationships aren't as strong as I would like them to be?
Mm-hmm.
What you have to look at yourself
Mm-hmm.
and ask, what am I doing as well?
Yeah.
You know?
It's always you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I realize that, and it's not even a way of like blaming yourself for everything. It's more of like really empowering yourself,
Mhm.
right? Knowing that, whatever the situation is, somehow I had some kind of role, and it's hard to take that in and
Yeah.
be like, so them coming up and hitting me, it was my fault. Nah, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Right. But like, your energy, your vibration, your karma, like there's something in it where you can be empowered to, create your whole life experience. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly losing people, you're finding that, you burn these bridges, you lose relationship after relationship after relationship, just go in, and it's nothing bad, right? It's just taking a moment to go in and being like, all right, what's there. And it can be something as something that happened a long time ago, or some kind of fear, right? People have a fear of getting too close to someone.
Mhm.
And so once their relationship hit a certain level, they start to sabotage it because they think that, oh, this can't be real, right? I haven't had this great of a relationship. This is too good to be true, or
Yeah.
this is getting too serious, or now I have to be vulnerable, right? And before being vulnerable, they will sabotage and burn the bridge. And it's
Right.
just like, man, just go in and be vulnerable with yourself, and be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a superpower. A lot of people think you being vulnerable, oh, that's a weakness. Like, what are
Mhm.
you doing? But I think being vulnerable is like is the ultimate strength that you can have. You know, out.
And I feel like it's like you said, not only just that it's a superpower, but it's like glue.
Mm,
Like, and what I mean by that is like I used to be scared to be vulnerable
mhm,
to the point where it felt like an extension of myself,
mhm,
and it felt like if I extend this part of me, then I could regret it later.
mhm,
You know, my vulnerability belongs with me, not with everyone else.
Mm,
But then later I learned that that's not true.
mhm,
I can be vulnerable with whoever.
mhm,
It's more so about what level of vulnerability I want to show,
mhm,
or I want to share.
mhm.
Because some people will take advantage of your vulnerability.
Mhm.
They'll take advantage of it. And if you're not strong enough, you can be swayed or manipulated.
Mhm.
But on the bright side, and that's just the negative, dark parts of it, of how people can see being vulnerable and how it can impact them. But the good parts of being vulnerable, once you discover what that vulnerability is linked to
Mhm.
and you're safe with
Mhm.
to be vulnerable with, and that can mean different things depending on who it is.
Mhm.
it it can actually be a sense of freedom,
Mhm. Yeah.
because now that I feel like I can be vulnerable with you, I can tell you what works, what doesn't work for me. We
Mhm.
can work together.
Yeah.
We can play off each other's ideas, each
Absolutely.
other's creativity. We can comfort one
Mhm.
another.
Yeah.
We can find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can help me and I can help you, and
Mhm.
but you wouldn't know that if you didn't share that with me.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and people are so afraid to be judged
Mhm.
off of when they're vulnerable or to be taken advantage of,
Yeah.
that they just shut it down.
Yeah, I think just the fear of that alone shuts it down, right?
Yeah.
Sure, someone could try to take advantage or someone could like bring it in your face later, but it's worth that risk,
Yeah.
right? Because still at the end of the day, they have no power over you, right? And so even if they do try to take advantage, unless you're swayed and you yourself give that power along with that vulnerability,
Yeah.
then it's only going to do you good, right? Because you're also being your full self too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about a lot of people who don't share their feelings or don't cry in front of certain people or anyone, or don't just show who they fully are
Right.
because that fear of being judged. And a lot of people are hiding like their best talents, right? Their most treasured gifts,
Yeah.
because they're afraid to be vulnerable. And so then you're automatically shrinking yourself too, and only giving 45% of who you truly are when you're supposed to be at full capacity
Yeah.
here, right? And so,
Absolutely.
and it's not until you get that full capacity that you start to get the yeses that you've been looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a sense of entitlement because you're getting everything you need, because you're being your full and true and authentic self.
Absolutely.
And none of that comes without being vulnerable to some extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just moving beyond that fear, right? I think we can, if people just were just vulnerable with each other, like that alone would
It would
change
be
the
a better
world.
place.
That alone just changed the entire world
Yeah.
significantly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like it makes people cold, and
Hmm.
like when they're not vulnerable, they become cold and
Standoffish.
yeah,
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they'll put up facades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Showing who they are not, right? And who they think they need to be in order to be accepted in
Right.
any given space. And
Right.
then them not being themselves, they're not happy.
No.
And so yeah, I think
And you're attracting the
vulnerability.
wrong people because you're not being
Yeah,
yourself. And so
absolutely.
now these people think that you're one of them, or that
Absolutely.
you align with their values and their
Right.
morals, but you might not.
And now you're in a whole world of knots.
Yeah, a whole world of knots.
you know
Not for
Yeah,
you, not for you, not for
exactly,
you.
exactly,
Not for
right?
me. Yeah.
So it's so cliche, but be yourself.
Yes, be
Be
yourself.
vulnerable, right?
That's what I
Cry,
was just
laugh,
telling
you know.
Shavonda on the other show. She was like, she asked me a question. It was something along the lines of um, something about being in spaces and um, when do you know it's okay to be yourself, or do you just act like someone else? And it's like, it's always okay to be yourself.
Absolutely.
Like I told her, I said I would feel a lot more uncomfortable trying to be someone I'm not than to just be me.
Yeah.
Because how can you manage someone else? You can't. Now I gotta
Exactly.
try and pretend the whole
Right.
time.
And
That's
like, and
stressful.
now you're exactly. You're not present. You're not there. You're
No.
literally not there. You're someone else.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, I'm
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's then you can't really like we said, then you can't really figure out who you really align with, because you're too busy trying to align with everyone to please. That people pleasing factor comes in, and now you're not being genuine. So yeah, this was good. This was a really good conversation. I'm so thankful. Y'all check out Black Gitsa. Be on the
Please.
lookout
Please.
for all the great things that are coming.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna put some stuff together. We're gonna make this happen. And I really hope everyone took something from this today. Just live in love and gratitude. Live in love and gratitude. Because if you live in love and gratitude, you cannot go wrong.
Truly. Like top.
Yes.
It's top tier. It's undefeated. It's the ultimate. Just being grateful. And there's like always in any given moment, in every given moment, there's 1,000,001 things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You just gotta see it, right?
You can't be grateful and angry.
For real.
It's just certain things, like you said, they don't go together.
For real. You cannot be grateful and angry. Yes. Truly.
No way.
Let it go.
Let it all go.
Yeah.
So
amen.
All right, guys. Well, this is another episode of Minding My Own Podcast. I will see you guys April 9th, right? Yep, April 9th. You guys expect J.B. Adams, right? J.B. Adams, DJ. Yeah, he's a DJ. You guys know him. He is coming on talking about Dads on Duty.
Yeah,
there's an event.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so he's gonna come on. He's gonna talk about it. I'm excited. We're gonna talk about parenting from a man's standpoint as well. This should be interesting and enlightening. You ready for that? I know you're gonna chime in. Yes. So y'all be on the lookout for that. And every Wednesday this month, I have a special guest. So yeah, y'all be tuning in. We got some really good topics that we're gonna cover, and I'm very excited. So thanks for tapping in, and we'll see y'all next week. All right. Salute.